All right, guys, our next guest is a former UFC welterweight champion. He has won KO of the night and Fight of the Night honors 3 times each and takes on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at UFC 196. Johny Hendricks, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Well, we're doing better now that Johny Hendricks is on the program. It's great to have you back on the show, especially seeing as we're just around the corner from Christmas and New Year's and all those celebratory occasions. How are your holidays looking, though? With a fight coming up on February 6th, will you be able to enjoy some of the festive foods, or will you be training through the holidays?
Yeah, I'll be training through the holidays. Festive foods, realistically, not really. But that's one thing about the new nutrition, Louis Nutrition, the way that he works it. I can have some of that. I just have to prep myself a different way. There's a sort of a science behind all of that, and so I'll get to enjoy some food, but not all of it. But some of it just makes you feel bad, anyways. Even though I like to feel bad sometimes, but I know that there's an important part. The reason why I'm not doing it, and I know that's to fight and make weight and get it done.
Yeah, we feel you, Johnny. We like to eat bad food until we absolutely hate ourselves. We're just food whores. But talk to us about the changes you've made in order to get your weight under control and what you're doing now to make sure you hit 170 on February 6th.
It's a process that Louis goes through, and so what I got to do is I got to text every picture, or text him a picture of everything I eat.
Wow.
And if we go out to eat somewhere, I text him the menu, and he'll tell me what I can have and what I can't, and what kind of proportions I need. And it's a lot of communication, and I sort of like it. I like that I have to, you sort of start even checking yourself where you're like, hey, is this good enough? Is this not? And you move forward.
Do you have any of those moments where you wake up in the middle of the night for a late night snack and he's just standing in front of the refrigerator shaking his head?
Yeah. No, you know what? It's usually right around 1 or 2 o'clock. You're sitting there going, it's about bedtime, and you're sitting there going, okay, I want to get something to eat, but you got to sit there and say, okay, if I do anything, I got to text it to him. So I got to make sure that it's something he will approve of, because if not, I'll hear about it tomorrow.
Well, I'm just saying, Johnny, you could always Google image something like really healthy, like super healthy food, save the image, send it to him, and then and then really you could be eating something else. But in all honesty, we read that you're walking around at 196 pounds. Do you feel the difference in the gym, and are you seeing the results in your performance, not just on the scales?
Realistically, yes, I am seeing it on all that stuff. I am, the lighter I get, the better I feel. For example, I like to be walking around at 195. Whenever I'm walking around at 195, I feel ready. You know what I mean? I feel like I can I can pretty much do anything. My shape is there. But now that we don't have the new IVs, I'm gonna have to get it down a little bit lower. So what I'm hoping is that in the next 2 weeks I can be at like 188. And do 6 weeks or 4 weeks at 188, or maybe even get a little bit lower, and then start the last sort of process to get the rest of the weight off.
Well, it seemed like your future may have been at middleweight. The UFC has forced fighters to go up in weight, such as Kevin Gastelum and John Lineker recently, and Dana White stated that he didn't want to see you at 170 again. What were the talks like between you and the UFC? Did you need to convince them to let you stay at 170?
Yes, and I told him, I was like, I want to be the champ again one day, and 170 is my better weight class. You know what I mean? That's where I'm the best at. I would like to be at 185. Don't get me wrong, less weight cut, but I really want to make sure that I get in there, and I sort of had to tell him, hey, I want to be at 170. I think that's the best weight class for me. And they said, we agree, but what are you going to do about it so you don't miss weight again? I said, I'll get a nutritionist. And they're like, okay, that's what we wanted to hear. And then as soon as I got the nutritionist, I let them know, hey, I got a nutritionist. And, they're sort of excited about it. And, I'm excited about it too, because, I know how to cut weight. I know how to do all those things, but there is a science behind all that. And now it's time for me to not have to worry about that, and it's sort of nice to be down at 196 where I don't have to worry about it.
Sounds like a fairly easygoing conversation. Was there any resistance on the UFC's part at all? Were they like, sorry, Johnny, we really want to see you at middleweight, and then you sort of had to go back and said, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the nutritionist, and they were like, okay. Or was it just that easy? They said, look, you've said all the right things. You're back at welterweight.
Realistically, I think I said all the right things, and I really wanted to make sure that I let them know that what my goals are, and that I can get back there. And yeah, I told him, I was like, yeah, I need help. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to need that help. How do I get that help? And you go that way. And, Louis was, he contacted me, and he came out, stayed with me, and I was like, man, this is going to be an awesome fit.
Do you think any part of it, the issues with the weight, had to do with the fact that you have a delicious restaurant and you could just go there any time and have delicious meals?
Well, it wasn't even that. I think it was just, I thought I had everything under control. The way that I work, and it's sort of my nemesis as well, is that if I have something that's good, I want to make it better. You know what I'm saying? And I did really good for the Matt Brown fight, but I was like, hey, if I do this, it'll be better. If I do this, it'll be better. And whenever I was sitting there doing that, it actually hurt me because I wasn't doing the right things to on the weight cut. I wasn't combining my foods the right way. I was doing this wrong, that wrong, and that's why I need a nutritionist because, yeah, I know how to cut weight, but I want to do it healthy and I want to do it the right way where my body can handle it.
Well, you've also made some other changes since we last spoke to you, Johnny. You've left Team Takedown, which is where you spent the majority of your career. Tell us about that decision and why you chose to leave.
Realistically, I liked them. It was just a time of the matter that I just needed to sort of break away, see what I can do on my own. Like I said, they've treated me well. I've done the same. And realistically, it's just, there's a point in your life where you're just like, you know what? Hey, can I do it on my own? And I'm at that point where my contract was coming up, and I was just like, you know what? Let's see if we can do it on my own.
Well, you spoke to MMA Junkie Radio. You did mention there were a few certain things that you guys couldn't come to an agreement on. There must have been some significant things, seeing as you decided to leave. Like you mentioned that you wanted to go on your own, but were there any other issues that you can tell us about that factored into that decision?
Not really. I wish I could, but not really. It was just one of those things. Like I said, we couldn't come to agreements. And at that point you're just like, okay, hey, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for helping me out. And if I wasn't, if I didn't help out back, then I would make sure that I wouldn't leave. You know what I'm saying? But since I know that we've both done our parts, we can walk away.
Okay. Here's the interesting thing. We read that you'll look to train at Oklahoma State University, majority in wrestling, and also spend time with your boxing coach. You also have at the moment, you have to find a place to train jiu-jitsu. I mean, in this day and age, kind of seems pretty crazy. Will that be hard for you as opposed to training at one facility that has all areas covered? And are you currently looking to join a big MMA gym in the future?
You know what? Big MMA gym? Not really. I have my kickboxing coach, Stephen Wright. He's with me. Tony Cabela, and we're training at Reyes boxing gym there in Fort Worth. And we're training at a couple other places. And then my jiu-jitsu, excuse me, I'm actually going to be training at Genesis there in Fort Worth as well. So I have a place that I'm going to be able to train jiu-jitsu. Albert's an awesome dude. He's really good. He's a really good black belt. And he's got a lot of good students in there that can push me, and that's really what it's about. Definitely on the jiu-jitsu aspect, I need to make sure that I can be pushed, and those guys can do that.
It's interesting because you see all these massive teams like Jackson Winklejohn and TriStar and AKA, and a lot of build-up is around how these amazing athletes are training with other amazing athletes. I'm just wondering, do you think you'll be able to find the same success as you would if you were in a part of a big-time gym in the long term, or do you think that you don't really need to have a guy like Cain Velasquez to work with because there are other quality guys that just don't have name value that you can work with?
You know what? Realistically, everybody that was in my camp to get me to the belt are still in my camp. You know, that's one thing that's been nice is that I didn't need all these people. You know, I didn't have to have 60 people in one gym to get me where I need to be. You know, I got a couple of partners that have pushed me, that have done everything they could to get me to where I need to be. And they're also really good fighters, you know. It's just one of the things that, you know, for example, the guy that I train with every day, you know, his name's Razak. He's going to be, I see him in the UFC not too long. You know, he's an awesome fighter. He's one of the guys that pushes me, and we feed off of each other. And so realistically, I think that he could be in the top 10, the way that he fights. I really do, because I've sparred him, and I've fought a lot of guys in the top 10, and I would put him in the top 10 right now at the UFC. And he's one of my everyday training partners, so that works out really well for me.
The matchup at hand is obviously Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You know, he's a fighter that's been on the rise for a while now, and he's facing you on a 5-fight win streak. What do you think about the matchup, though? Because he's ranked number 8, not as close to title contention as you. Is he a guy that you expected to face, or were you a bit surprised that this is the guy you're facing?
You know what? I knew that me missing weight dropped me in the rankings. You know, I was ranked number 1, and now I'm 3rd. So it is what it is. You know, every fight's dangerous. You know, definitely whenever they get in the top 10, they're definitely dangerous. They deserve to be there. And I'm looking at it as this is my rebirth. I got to come back stronger than I was. You know, I got to go back out there and prove myself that I do belong here, and that my goal is still reachable. That my goal is to be the UFC champ again. And right now, he's just the next guy that I got to get through. You know, the way that I look at things and the way that I've always looked at things is I'm a nobody. I haven't done anything until you step in that octagon and you get your hand raised and you move to the next fight. But as soon as you move to the next fight, you got to forget everything in the past and then prepare like you haven't fought again. You know what I mean? You haven't fought, you haven't done anything, and you got to prove yourself every time. Because as soon as you stop doing that, you lose.
Absolutely. Well, you and Tyron Woodley, which was the initial fight before you missed weight, was going to be a barn burner. People were really looking forward to it. And you guys have a rivalry that goes back to your college wrestling days. Was it tough for you not to be able to settle the score in the octagon? And is that still a fight that you want?
You know, yeah, I'd like to get that fight back. You know, I would. And I probably will. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably going to get it back, and whenever I do, we'll be able to settle it then. You know, realistically, I look at it as a blessing because, you know, yeah, it sucks that you missed weight, but the way that I'm going to rebound from this, you know, for every negative, there's a positive. And so what I've done is I've taken all the negatives and I've tried to turn them into a positive, like a nutritionist. Getting everything in my life back to where I want it to be. So that way, this next run, you know, I can stay where I want to stay. You know, I thought I did that. I thought I got it back on where I wanted it to be. But, you know, the tell is pretty much that I didn't, because, you know, I wasn't able to make weight. I wasn't able to do this. Okay, why? What happened? Okay, take a step back. It's my fault. It sucks, but how do you make yourself better? You go, okay, I did it. I'm not good enough to do this on my own. Get somebody. Okay, I got that. All right, now what do I need to do? I need to do this, and get all my ducks in a row So that way now I can really, and that's what I've been focusing on since I've, as soon as I missed weight, realistically, for 2 weeks, I really couldn't train much because my body was still acting up. But as soon as I was able to start training again, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew how I needed to start focusing on where my future lies. And that's what I needed to push. And I really can't complain where I'm at right now.
Well, looking forward and talking about this matchup with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you've fought quite a few strikers and knockouts recently in Matt Brown, Robbie Lawler, and even go back to Carlos Condit, Martin Kampmann. How does Stephen Thompson's striking compare to those guys? And, do you think his karate style makes him the most dangerous striker you've faced?
You know what? Karate guys. I don't think he's the most dangerous guy I've faced. Do they have kicks? When you're facing somebody like Carlos Condit, who can do kicks, knees, and all the above, you know what I'm saying? That's where it can get really dangerous. He does have good striking. He does have good kicks. Has he been in a ring with somebody that whenever they could not put him out of the situation? That can really knock him out. I have. I've been in some wars with some guys who can throw a lot of leather, right? And punch very, very hard. So that's what I'm excited to see is whenever we go in there, do that and move forward and see how he can react. And if he can, then we'll be moving forward.
Well, like you mentioned, you've had some memorable highlight reel KOs on your resume. Do you think that you'll test your striking and power against Thompson? Or do you think you'll rely on your wrestling where you have the clear advantage? Johnny, it's pretty clear that a lot of people sort of expect you to dominate Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on the ground.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They also said that I couldn't strike with Carlos Condit. I couldn't strike with everybody was going to beat me on the feet, right? And here I beat everybody on the feet. You know what I'm saying? And that's what gives me even more thrill to prove everybody wrong. They're like, oh yeah, Johnny can out wrestle him. I know I can out wrestle him. You know what I mean? He doesn't know the wrestling that I do. But can I out strike him? I do believe I can because I've done it and I've proved it time and time again with really, really good strikers. So that's sort of my first MOA is to go out there and set that precedence that I'm going to be the one that's striking. I'm going to be the one that does this. And if it has to go another way, then it has to go another way. But one thing I've realized is that now I have to focus on making sure that people know now that I can wrestle, that I have the power to wrestle again. And that's really where I wanted to make sure that, that's why I say lifting weights for me is so important, because now I have the strength back to show people that I can wrestle, I can power people through, I can do everything that I want to do. That's really my goals for myself, is to do that.
A win over Thompson, Johnny, where does this put you in the division? How close do you feel you are to a title shot? Is this the win that gets you back at, another shot at the belt, or do you think you may have to fight another guy, say, like Damian Maia first?
You know what? That's the thing, is I might have to fight one more. I might not. It just depends what I can do with this. You know what I'm saying? This fight really is going to be the deciding factor on where I can move forward to, where I need to be. And when I can, for example, too, it also depends when they fight, January 2nd, January 2nd, Lawler and the other Carlos Condit.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's January 2nd. So January 2nd, I'm going to be fighting right after that. If I can put on a greater performance, and here's the thing too, GSP might come back. If GSP comes back, guess who wants to meet him? This guy. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that can come into play by time my fight gets here. And that's really where I'm looking at is, it might take two. It might only take one fight. But I always prepare for the worst. It might take two fights. and then by the beginning of next year, I'll be able to fight for the title again, and good Lord willing. Or, hey, something even better. I can go out there, I can finish Wonderboy Thompson, and I can get the next title shot. You just never know.
We'll let you go in just a minute, Johnny, because we know you're a busy guy, but you mentioned GSP. We've got to ask, how do you feel about this? Because rumors are swirling sort of every few weeks, every month or so, there's rumors that GSP might be returning. He's doing kind of like a test training camp, I believe, to see if he's sort of ready and willing to come back. If he does come back, let's say you sort of got the option title shot or GSP. What are you going for? Do you want to avenge that loss, or you just sort of, is it more important for you to fight for the belt?
It's more important for me to fight for the belt. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing: if GSP does come back, it's sort of funny. The rumors started happening whenever I sort of got pushed in the back, and everybody thought I was going 185. So realistically, the last 2 months, the rumors started popping out. So, realistically, for me, it's always the belt. Like I said a long time ago, the reason why I trained for GSP and I wanted all these things with him is because he had the belt. Right now, it's training for Robbie Lawler or Carlos Condit, whoever wins the next belt, wins the next match. That's all that matters for me.
It looks like, if things do go to plan and you do beat Stephen at the beginning of the year, that fight could happen at UFC 200, you versus GSP. Would you be able to return? I mean, it's not that long of a layoff. Would you be able to return back into the octagon in July and do that if the opportunity was offered to you at UFC 200?
Yeah, I could do that. That's the thing is that's one thing about doing my weight and having Louis nutrition on my side is that he wants me to start walking around at 195. Maybe even 190. You know what I'm saying? I might be even lighter. We don't know. We're just going to see where my body sort of plateaus at and is comfortable. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to take a fight on short notice.
Well, there you go. That would be crazy. From going to sort of missing weight to be able to being sort of like the company man and taking fights on short notice. Obviously, a GSP rematch is tantalizing, but in the meantime, Johnny takes on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at UFC 196 on February 6th, and that'll be February 7th in Australia because of the time difference. Don't forget to follow Johnny on Twitter at Johny Hendricks, and as always, it's a pleasure having you on the show, Johnny. Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, thank you, and y'all have a wonderful night.